This is Shannon Miller with Cleaning Business Life, and I'm here with my best co-host ever, Miss Jamie Runco. We're here and we're talking about interviewing red flags.
This is so good right now. I mean, right off the get-go, you guys, especially if you're starting to hire, take it from us, especially you, Shannon. Gosh,
Yeah,
gosh.
I've had my share. Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of interview red flags, and not because people are bad either. It's because there are. It's just like with clients, right? There are red flags with clients. There's also red flags with cleaning techs. An example of that is, and I have nothing against people who are in transition. For example, occasionally I would get someone who doesn't have a home and they were going through too much internally to be able to be a good individual for a cleaning tech. So, sometimes you have to kind of say, hey, when you get yourself a little more stabilized, please feel free to come back. And that's not discriminatory. And I know that there's going to be people going, you should give everyone a chance. You should give people a chance when they're in the right situation. If they're not in the right situation, all it's going to do is just cause you havoc. It's going to cause your team havoc. It's going to cause your clients havoc. There's a lot of instability when you are not central to your location. And I'm not talking about, like, for example, when I lived in Lake Tahoe and I couch surfed for a period of time with my dog Montana. That's different, right? That when you're family and you're out there and you're in total turmoil all the time, you're not going to be able to be a good employee. And I know I'm digging myself deeper in the hole, but it's just an example I wanted to give. That would be a red flag. And I'm not saying that you can't do it. It's a red flag that you kind of need to be made aware of.
Right, right. We all need dependability, and that being houseless is almost a full-time job in itself.
Right. Because you're
Trying
trying
to
to make it
find,
happen.
yeah, and it is. I've been there many, many years ago, and it is a full-time job trying to find the resources to dig yourself out of that hole.
Right.
But
Doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means
no, it
right
does
there at
not.
that point.
Not in the cleaning industry, I don't
Right.
think, at that time.
Right.
Not at that time. Things let's go with the green lines. We need a great attitude. We need somebody that shows up. We need people that care. You're looking for people that
Want to
almost
grow?
want to say, yeah, like almost not a motherly instinct because men are in, they have this calm, cool demeanor. They want the hours. They want to know how to grow and they're interested in being with like your company and helping your company grow. And again, that's it. But it could be messy, but
Can be. And most applicants are not going to have red flags. I'm just talking about, it happened to come up in conversation the other day with somebody who shall not be named. And
well, no,
I
they
was like,
do. No, they do.
but I thought that this would make an interesting topic because we don't really we talk lots about red flag clients, but I don't think we've really explored the potential of what a red flag interview would be. Another example of a red flag, and I'm tiptoeing through the posies here, is someone who may have a felony for theft. Now, it's entirely up to you how you hire, but if you have someone who has been tempted by theft before in a convenience store environment, it might not be a good environment for them to be in someone's home. Now, the caveat with that, this is definitely a red flag, is they might be a perfect fit for a bank because it's on camera, right? If you hire that way, as long as you disclose, hey, just to let you know this person, blah, 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 or not disclose. It just depends on the situation for those types of things.
It, you know, people, we do background checks.
Right.
There's felons. There's felons here.
I
It
think a lot of people have
depends.
them.
Yeah, it depends on how long ago it was the felony, what it was it for.
Right.
People get back in the day. You get a felony for drugs. People have
That's
changed
changed a lot.
yeah, but
It's not even the
they've
same.
turned around. Yeah, they've turned their life around. They don't deserve to have that over their head from society for the rest of their lives. So you do. That's the beautiful thing about this business. Whenever it's yours,
Yes.
you get to make up the rules and what you're willing to tolerate. Red flag is definitely theft. I would even go as far as even if it's a misdemeanor. Misdemeanor theft, how long ago? I don't know. Sometimes drug addicts way back in the day would, if they're changing their life, they got caught stealing food or something like that. It just I still theft is a big one for me, even if it just depends. But yeah.
So yeah, late happens. Life happens. I mean, there's been many times on the show we've had a kid interrupt or a dog interrupt. Life happens. But, did they call? Did they text? I can't tell you how many times I've had people no call, no show. I'm like, so are you going to be joining us today? Are you?
Right.
Is everything
Right. If
okay?
they're
I'm concerned. Can you please give me a call?
on an interview, I if they're 5 minutes late, no call, no text, we're done. We're done. They call and text and I hear their reasoning why, still gonna proceed with caution. Still, because let's be real, people can lie.
Right. Or do they show up late and act like nothing happened? That's a red flag.
Oh yeah, you're done. Well, it's definitely your interview was at such and such time, and we're on for the next person to come in. Thank you.
Or how someone handles being late tells you more than the fact that they were late. So having some common courtesy, and things happen that trees, and especially in your area, Jamie, trees fall on the highway or the road and shut down the road. And you're just like waiting for the forest department to come and drag the tree off of the highway because these
There's
big trees,
slides.
right?
There's called slides. Mm-hmm.
When you guys get a lot of rain, what other crazy things? We've had cars overturn, car accidents. The traffic lights broke, no one knew how to
Yeah,
go.
pulled over
Mhm.
because they're trying to make it to the interview and they get a ticket and just makes it for even a worse day. Then that's also thinking back, like, okay, then you're going to speed to your client's house if you're so we're going to have this we could have this problem. But we also look into their DMV records.
Right. Checking the driving records is super important,
Mhm.
especially if you have company cars. The next possible potential red flag is they speak negatively about every previous employer. Now, I'm going to share something I did when I was like 20. I had, and I've talked openly about this individual. Her name was Barbara. I don't think Barbara is around anymore. But I worked for a plumbing wholesaler at the time. I think I made $6.25, and it was a 40-minute drive each direction. And Barbara would come into the room and she would announce that she was going to fire someone today. And I would be the only person sitting in that room. That's the type of person she was. I'd like look around like, is it me? Right? Is she going
And
to
if
fire
so,
me?
why?
Right.
Oh,
So eventually I became I became bitter, and I should have left after the first couple times she mistreated me, but I put up with a lot of stuff because I was a very dedicated worker. So I went and got hired on at an interview with somebody else, and all I did was badmouth my former boss, Barbara. So don't do what I did, because that's a huge red flag. I was 20. I didn't realize, that negativity was being picked up. I was just telling this person how this person was. How was your
Yeah.
last job? I hated it, right?
Well, no, I've gone through some applications because even if you don't hire the person, always have them in the back pocket ready to be hired and interviewed. That's what
Right.
we mean by constantly hiring.
Right.
We don't mean hire them right on the spot and then you don't have enough work to go around and you're that's not what that means. Start stacking those applications up. So I'm looking through the applications and on my application is like, why tell me why are you leaving your current job or something along those lines. And this person proceeded to write a whole paragraph about how toxic the environment and there's no team, there's no support, there's no team playing together. It's just a toxic environment.
There's a lot of those places.
And that to me is a red flag.
Right.
Uh,
My boss
that
was crazy. I'm sure I said that in the interview. They're all idiots. I don't know if I would have said that, but I might have considered it. Nobody appreciated me. The customers were awful. I didn't get enough breaks. I didn't have time to be on my phone. Like the list can go on and on and on.
Yep. Because we all know that I'm like right in the middle of all of this, you guys. So yeah, I'm like, I got stories. Some people sit there and tell you about their whole why'd you get let go? Have you ever been let go of a job? And they'll tell you, I did. And the reason why is because da 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 da. And I didn't even do it at the end of it. And it's like,
You're like, yeah, no problem.
it's red flag.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, this is a great one. They can't seem to explain their work history. They've had lots of jobs in a short amount of period of a time. Like, why are you not staying at these jobs? Why are you skipping from job to job to job? And I think people also look at our industry as I hear it all the time, but this is becoming not true, as a pass through job.
Hmm.
And I'm
That's
gonna tell you
changing.
why. My if you've gone back and listened to some of the podcasts, in the beginning, you would probably hear me say, "This is such a pass-through job." My mind has shifted to where this is not. I have created an actual, like, uh, what is the word I'm looking for?
Permanent.
A career
Hmm.
path.
Right.
We have started to do career paths. So, whenever they can't explain their work history and they're jumping from job to job to job, I would always hire a freaking breathing body. Yep, get in here. Just to get that because it would panic hire.
Right. I'm guilty of it as well. Living and breathing. Perfect. You're hired.
Yep, yep. Why do you only have a job for 2 weeks at a time?
And,
Every
and
eh,
everything has a reason, too. They have a reason for everything. Everything.
everything. Like the one on the now, mind you guys, this is just on the application itself.
Right.
We haven't even done the interview yet. So you didn't even make it to the interview process if you're gonna give me a whole reason why none of this is your fault.
Right. Or can they explain? Right. Or maybe does every answer feel vague. Like they ask, so tell me about your hobbies. Well, what would you like to know? Well, do you go outside your house when you're not working? What do you do in your free time?
I
That's
always did
actually a
not
really
like that
interesting, there's
question.
lots of interesting questions. I believe we discussed interview questions somewhere, somewhere, somehow.
Well, we should
Maybe.
do that, Shannon, like interview questions. Let's write
Right.
it down.
I'm
Let's
writing
write
it
that down.
down. Well, we'll
Yes.
have to look. Interview questions. Another brilliant idea.
Yes. No, and I love it because I'm right. Like I said, I'm right in the thick of this right now, you guys.
Right. So you're
I'm
really
I'm
starting to
in the
look
middle.
for ownership.
Yes. Yes. Not perfection. We don't
No.
want perfection. What you can't train is common sense.
Right. That's really hard, actually.
You can't train common sense, but somebody that can be coachable.
Discernment.
Yeah, there you go. Discernment. Yes.
When they don't ask you any questions back or they haven't done any research on you or your business, that's usually a little bit of a red flag. Like aren't interested in knowing what you stand for, what your mission statement is,
They're just
no curiosity at all.
right. I see people all the time saying, every all these people say that they're hiring, but I put on all these applications and nobody's calling me back. And it's like because you're hopping from everybody and just taking the first person that'll grab you know, without doing any kind of investigation on who this company that you just put in this application for. That's why I've structured my application, you know. I've said, why would you like to work for above all cleaning services? And from that question alone, I've gotten so much great feedback that it's like, I've heard amazing things about you. I would love to be a part of the team that I see that you portray on social media. I've seen that. But again, it's hard structuring just even an application. And some of these applications you could do that with, structure it out, and then listen to this podcast for the red flags.
Right.
I,
And a lot of times too, if they're not asking you questions back, if they're not interviewing you in your business, because ultimately cleaning techs make us a lot of money, it tells you that they might not be interested in what's really going on. They're just there as a physical body, like what Jamie and I have described, a warm body, let's go. So that you want them to ask questions. You want them to be curious about what's going on. You want them to want to do a good job. And, there's a lot of questions like not working Fridays. Can I leave early on Tuesdays? Can I bring my child? Can I use my own products? What about earbuds? Can I? And usually accommodation isn't the issue. It's usually timing. So a lot of cleaning companies, and I'm sure you guys have all noticed this, there's usually two shifts. There's a 8 a.m. or a 9 a.m. start, and it usually goes till 1 p.m. or 12 p.m. And then, or you work until 4 p.m. is usually what it works out to be. So you decide what works best for you and your business. And if they can't fit within those parameters or they have special accommodations scheduling wise, you have to decide whether you're going to be able to work with that or not. Over the Christmas holidays, if you have someone who needs all of Christmas break off and you're slammed because it's the busiest time of year for you, that might not be a good hire. Or you go into it with the understanding that you've made accommodations for them. But you also have to remember if you make an accommodation, if you have genuine W-2s, if you make one accommodation for one, you need to make accommodation for all. So that's why we would have blackout dates over the Christmas holiday. But I can say that we would close down, like I used to be really brutal. Admittedly, I am still ashamed that I did this. We would work up until Christmas Eve, and then we would be off Christmas, and then we'd work the day after Christmas. And now we just shut down on the 23rd, and we're closed until the 27th. We work a couple days, we catch everybody up, and then we're also closed New Year's Eve and New Year's Day because my mentality changed. I was just ruthless. I came from the restaurant industry. I didn't know any better.
Right.
So, you don't wanna be that way either. So if you're gonna have someone who has special accommodations, my point is make sure that you can honor those accommodations.
Follow it through. Yeah.
Right,
Here's a big red flag. They constantly interrupt you.
right.
They're constantly over talking you. I agree. We know that I'm a talker and I can sometimes get excited and over talk. It is
Just a little.
definitely, yeah, it's definitely
Still
a
love you.
training. I know. I know. I get excited, you guys, especially in this industry, about every aspect of it, down to even this, the hiring, the interviewing. Like I'm literally building this out right now so that I can my brain is so used to working one way, and it's like, "Well, what are you doing? We don't do it that way." So, con being able to listen is a trained thing that we need to do. Mm. Another red flag, though, is accountability. Do they are they taking accountability for anything that they put on, especially the applications? Or is it everybody else's fault? Why was they late to the interview even? Traffic or their ex or their kids. That's gonna end up being a problem for you down the road.
If they can't listen to you, they're not gonna listen to your clients. And I agree with Jamie, if everything is someone else's fault, then that are they chronically late? Or is there something going on with their schedule? Or is it drop off and pickup? If they say, "Okay, I made a mistake," then they own it at least, and then you can decide whether that mistake warrants the next process and the streamline of the interviewing process, right? You get the application, you do the interview, you do the working interview, or however you're doing it. And then maybe references can sound hesitant. That's a red flag. Sometimes I love talking to references because they'll tell you all of the juicy bits, all of
Yeah,
them.
and don't forget, you guys, in the beginning, I never did whenever I first was learning how to hire because this is a learned process.
Mhm.
I never called their references. Shannon got on to me. You gotta call your references. You gotta find out. And it was like, well, what questions do I ask? And if their references are not matching, not necessarily a deal breaker, but you know,
Well, sometimes they'll put personal references, and that can always get the T on them as well. So you never know what you're going to get, and make sure that you're obviously asking responsible questions within the legalities of the state you operate. I have to say that because I don't want anyone coming back going, Shannon said.
well,
So
I'm gonna tell you guys right now, if you put in an application, I do look at your social media.
yes,
I wanna see what that can be a red flag. I wanna see what you're putting if you're just cussing up the storm and baby mama drama or daddies and all this, that's a red flag for me. So be careful what you put out there.
and then red flag number 9 is your gut is screaming. Always go with your gut. Always, all your gut is actually going to respond more faster than your heart. Believe it or not, is what I have been told. And have you ever hired someone that just felt off?
Y yes. Yes. Of course, you guys have watched me. I knew I shouldn't have. My gut was telling me not to, but I needed somebody. I wanted to scale so bad, but I did it wrong. Of
Right.
course,
I hired my cousin and it cost me about 75 grand. So, because I was
It's
pressured
a
into
bit
it. Right.
ouch.
That was a painful painful band-aid. And I regretted it in the end. And as you guys all know, I've mentioned it on multiple occasions. I am uninvited to any holiday gathering because of the experience I had with my cousin.
Yeah, well, family. I don't think that's I some people do it.
It
So
works out great for them. I've seen it
they
happen.
but I've also seen some really Shannon, you're a great example of that, how messy it can really get.
Yep. And everyone believed her, and no one questioned anything that she said. And I was like, how come no one came to me and asked me?
How come nobody's talking to me?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm officially the black sheep. And that's really when expensive mistakes happen. I was pressured into hiring my cousin because she was fresh new in town. I grew up with her, but I hadn't seen her in several years, so she was older than me. And I was like, "Sure." Because I told my uncle, I'm like, "Look, I typically don't hire family. There's a lot of reasons why, and there was a lot of guilt."
How big were you at this time? About so you've already
Like
had your
20 cleaning techs at the time.
so you already had it down
Right.
pretty
So
much.
it's just like we went through the motions. I went through the interview. She interviewed really well, and it wasn't, and then you guys know the story, the other, I actually think that it's probably time for me to have full disclosure over my $375,000 mistake. I just haven't really openly talked about it. I've given little bits of information throughout
Right.
the podcast, but I just haven't been ready. But yes, my cousin cost me about 75 grand after everything was said and done. So
Well, yeah, and but I guess what? I bet you it won't ever happen again.
never,
That
never.
instantly whenever somebody tells me that they learn that, I was like, "Guess what? I bet you'll see me in the groups, everybody, whenever, it's like, there it is, there is a learning mistake that you can, rather than cry about it for a second or years, cry about it, but you know what? I bet you it'll never happen again to me."
Never.
I had a
Nope.
and was it hiring out of desperation? Because that's a great way red flag number 10 you have right here.
Right.
Hiring out of desperation
Right. Warm
or
body.
right? You're behind, customers are waiting, phones are ringing. Man, whenever I still there's no way I could I would have to wait until after I was done cleaning to try and catch up. Sometimes I was just too tired. So I'm sure I've let
And not answering the phone while you're out there in the field cleaning. Right. So when you're hiring warm bodies and you're not doing your back work of checking out references, or you're behind because the phones are ringing, it causes you to make emotional decisions that you wouldn't normally make. As I mentioned, when I hired my cousin, I was pressured by my uncle. Like, can you please help us out? She's having a hard time finding a job. That should have been the first red flag, right? I didn't, I didn't have any reference point. It was over the summer. She worked for the school district where she came from, right? So they were off. There's no way to verify anything. I just had to take her word for it. And the end result was that it cost me several thousands of dollars. And desperation hires create desperation fires. Definitely. And we didn't want to leave you with all of the negative side of interviewing. We wanted to give you some green flags. So we're going to talk about green flags with interviews. The people you want to hire, right?